time to get to know your tool and this technique to truly transform your skin. So be sure as well to grab your Gua Sha guide, because I'll be referencing this throughout our tutorial. But if you don't happen to have it with you today, we have uploaded the PDF version so you guys can take a look at it on the chat box. So, getting to know your stone. There are lots of different shapes and sides to the stone, so we'll start with the divots. There are 2 divots on your stone, which you will use to hug more of the bony areas, such as the back of the spine, the jawbone, and the brow bone. The long, smooth edge is where you'll focus on more of the larger areas. So the shoulder and neck, the front of the neck, and the cheek and forehead. And the teeth and comb edge is often the side that I'll use to target those specific areas of concern, such as the fine lines and hyperpigmentation and discoloration. Also, while this is a guide to your stone, part of the fun of this practice is to find what feels good. So if you feel like using the teeth along the jaw actually helps to relieve even more pressure, go for it. On the back of the neck, if you want to incorporate the divots or the teeth beside the spine, that works too. The main thing is just incorporating the divots on the bony areas to help protect that sensitive area. So moving on into our techniques, there are 3 top tips that I love to follow and are essential for seeing the results that you're hoping for. And I refer to these as the 3 Ps: pressure, pull, and placement. So tip number 1 with pressure, you always want to incorporate, almost always want to incorporate super light pressure. The lymph fluid lives just below the surface of the skin, so light pressure is all you need to get that flowing. So especially around the delicate eye area where a lot of us can experience that puffiness, really, really light, delicate pressure on that fragile area as well. However, if you tend to carry more tightness and tension, you can apply a bit more firm to medium pressure to break up that tension and tightness. So, such as the shoulder, the jaw, and the forehead. And always be sure as well for pull, tip number 2, to keep your stone at a 15-degree angle to the skin. The main point of this is stone to skin contact. As much stone touching the skin as possible. So on myself, it's usually about 1 finger's width between my skin and the stone. Can you see this way? We want to avoid keeping it at a 90-degree angle. The more contact is where you're going to get more results. And be sure as well to use the opposite hand to support the skin as you pull across. So each hand has a job to do during your Gua Sha sequence. And finally, placement. Always be sure to remember that light downward strokes help to drain, detoxify, and depuff, while light upward strokes help to lift, tighten, and firm. Always be sure to do each step of the sequence 3 to 5 times, and at the end of each step, give the stone a little wiggle to stimulate lymphatic flow and release that tension. All right, I think that's all you guys need to know to get going into our Gua Sha sequence. So, are you ready to Gua Sha? Let's start with a deep inhale and exhale. Engaging the parasympathetic nervous system straight away to help support even greater Gua Sha results. So, I always recommend starting on the neck. This is essential, even if you only have 2 minutes to squeeze in your Gua Sha sequence. The neck, I like to think of as the funnel from the face and the skin to the rest of the body. So just by opening up these pathways immediately helps to drain and detoxify. So starting on the neck, grab your stone, we'll go to the back of the spine. So starting at the base of the spine, working your way up into the hairline, Again, keeping your stone at that 15-degree angle and slow, repetitive motions. The next step is just beside the spine. So I'll be using the long straight edge, but feel free to incorporate the teeth if you want to try that out. Next, we move to the side of the shoulder. This is where I love incorporating a bit more firm to medium pressure on top of the shoulder and then lessening my pressure as I move up the neck. And again, if you're expecting, just start a bit closer to your neck, avoiding the upper outer area on the shoulder. Then moving around to the front of the neck, again incorporating the long edge, starting at the collarbone, working your way up, just underneath the jawline, and a wiggle. And remember, very light pressure is all you need here, and keeping the stone connected with the skin as much as possible. Then moving to the front of the throat, this is another area where you always want to use your divot. So hugging the throat, and again, using your support hand. If you need to follow the stone up the throat, feel free to do that as well. So light pressure here, sweeping up under the chin. And that's it for the first side of the neck sequence. So we'll go ahead and start on the other side and bring it around to finish the full neck. So going back to the side of the spine, beginning at the base. Then moving just beside the spine with the long edge, or you can try the teeth. And then moving to the shoulder, firmer pressure if you need, and lighter pressure up the neck. And then moving to the front of the neck from the collarbone up to the jawbone. And final step on the front with the throat and the divots. Very light pressure, working your way up. And here you don't need to wiggle on the way out. We're just sweeping up and out. Okay, that's the next sequence. So again, even if you only have time for a couple of minutes, focus on the neck. So moving up to the face, I always recommend starting on the left side of the face. It really is not a game breaker, game changer if you don't, but the left side of the lymphatic system is responsible for draining so much more than the right side. So by the time we move to the right side, it gives the left side a bit of time to catch up. So starting on the left side of the face, we'll begin underneath the chin. And if you want to reference your guide again, starting on the next sequence. I usually will use either the end divot or the smooth edge, starting just under the chin. So again, it connects after we've come up the throat to the center of the chin, anchoring and supporting under the fleshy area, and really lightly, light pressure, sweeping out under the ear, and give your wiggle under the ear. And again, super light pressure. There's a lot of lymphatic pathways in this area, and light pressure is all we need. Then we'll move down from underneath the ear, down to the neck. This helps to drain everything we just were working on, down the neck, and wiggle at the collarbone. Moving up to the jawbone, using one of the divots, again, to hug that bony area, starting at the center and working your way out directly on the jawbone. And you may feel some of those crunchies or tightness. Over time, Gua Sha helps to untangle those and smooth that out and help to provide more relaxation and openness. Then moving up to the middle of the lips, out to the bottom of the ear. And starting on the lips, I always want to incorporate the lips and help to promote lip health and a little bit of extra plumping as well. So starting at the center of the lips, supporting with the opposite hand and sweeping out. And here we're going to pause because I have a little tip that's not on the card. And this is where you're going to want to focus when you have that tightness in the jaw, TMJ, you tend to clench. This part I love incorporating and could literally sit here for the rest of our time together. But you go ahead and use the pointed edge of the stone. And you'll want to anchor it in between two fingers and doing deep, firm, slow circular motions. Just focusing on specific areas around the jaw. You can even open your mouth to help alleviate even more tension. So again, finding those areas that feel tight and giving them that extra TLC and intention. And once you feel like you've done solid work on the jaw area, anytime we focus on specific points, we want to be sure we do a final sweep out to bring out everything that we've just broken up and what has been released. So we'll do a few more sweeps. And here you don't have to worry about that upper lip area if you are pregnant. It's more of the intentional pressure right there. So if you want to go just below the upper lip, you're fine working on top of the lips. Now that we've swept out from the jaw area, we'll be moving up to the bottom of the nose, under the cheekbone, to the ear. And this part is so incredible for minimizing congestion, blackheads. A lot of congestion can happen in this area. So again, if this is an area of concern for you, you can be sure to add a bit more steps or sequences or intention to this area. So slowly working out. And then working up underneath the eye area. Again, areas of concern, dark circles, puffiness, those fine lines. This repeated motion is going to be so supportive. And again, extremely light pressure and always supporting with the opposite hand. Now moving up to the brow bone, similar to the jawbone, we can tend to carry quite a bit of tightness and tension. And using one of the divots, supporting in the center, and working your way out and over the brow bone. You can even do a little lift at the end for a lifting motion. And another tip that's not on the card to open our eye area even more is using the long flat edge on the brow. So we'll be scooping up onto the brow and moving all the way up the forehead into the hairline. And here you don't actually need to support because the point of this move is to lift. And you can focus on this for as long as you want to. Lift that eyebrow, open up that eye area. Then moving to the center of the forehead. This is where you can incorporate any side of the stone again. If you want to use the divots up into the hairline, if you want to use the long smooth edge, or if you want to try the teeth. Now that we have moved all the way up the face, the final step is to bring everything down and drain everything that we got flowing and moving. So starting at the center of the forehead with the long straight edge, you'll move over the forehead, down the temple, in front of the ear, behind the ear, down the neck, and final drain at the collarbone. And one more final step that's not on your card, but a final sweep I love to do is just below the collarbone. And also for so many of us, we sit over computers. I sit over my facial bed, working on guests. I love this motion for a final drain and helping to promote open shoulders and an open heart. So starting at the center of your décolleté, sweeping out underneath the collarbone, light pressure, wiggling just before the underarm. Okay, you guys completed one first half of our full Gua Sha sequence.